Hello! A lot of people ask me about Hope, my Singer 403A, so I want to tell you a little bit about her. I named her Hope after my mother because this is her machine. She bought it in 1957 when she moved out of her home at the age of 24, which caused quite a stir in her family. She was not married or had no plans to get married, and she moved out of her house. Everyone told her not to. She did anyway. She was a secretary. She earned enough money to buy this machine because she knew she was going to have a family one day. She got all the bells and whistles. I have, you may not believe this, just a second. I have original box, original parts. I have original manual. Here, I know what you're saying. That box is in terrible shape. Yes, it is. But I know exactly what to do to take care of Hope. She is a good girl. And I've got everything. I never use this, by the way. But I can't throw it away. All right. And by the way, my mom is still around. It's not like she's passed away and this is a sad thing. She's still around. She loves that I use this machine. And she can't believe that I use it for my business. This, my son Zach, was a teenager when this was acting as a desk, because I can take this machine out and put in a piece of wood to make it a desk. He was using it as a desk for a while. He was a bored teenager. I don't know why he did this. He said he has no reasoning. And there's one other thing I want to show you. When my mom was sewing with this machine, the kids would always come and get in here. So my dad made a lock on this machine. If you look up here, there's a lever. And if you pull that lever down, this lever is an old wire hanger. If you pull that down and keep it there, it locks all of these and they won't open. And my dad, 3 of my 5 brothers are engineers, and you wonder why. Because he just had that kind of mind. He was a physics professor. He just kind of had a mind that there's a way to make things work. And you can unlock it like that, and now kids won't get into it. Brilliant. I started sewing when I was a young teenager because my friend, I can't remember her name right now, because my friend would come to church with stuff her mom would sew for her, and I couldn't believe it. It was awesome. So I said to my mom, I want you to sew me clothes. Well, my mom already had a business that she was owning and operating out of her home. It was called Electronic Secretary. So she would work at home doing projects for college students or professors at the local university. And she had one of the first computers anyone ever owned in 1980 something. So anyway, she was busy doing that, and I wanted to learn how to sew. So I would start using a pattern, and I would get stuck, and I would get mad. And I would go upstairs and explain to my mom why I was mad and stuck, and she'd be like, okay, give me a minute. So she'd come downstairs, and she'd get me unstuck and unmad, and I would start sewing again. And that is how I learned how to sew. I don't know how many years we did that, but I had to get really stuck and really mad to go up and get my mom, because I could not admit that I could not do it by myself and couldn't figure it out by myself. This, my mom says this tenacity and determination was mostly what taught me how to sew, but I've loved it ever since. And this is the machine I learned on. I just love sewing on this machine a lot because it reminds me of my mom. Who doesn't want to be reminded of their mom? So anything that goes wrong on this machine, I know exactly what Hope is doing. I know why she's upset. I know how to help her. I know how to stop her from being upset. And I know exactly what foot to use in any situation. I know what to do. But I've got all the parts. I maintain her myself. She has a knee pedal, if you can believe this. Here's the foot pedal. But it goes up here in this little slot, and it will and the knee pedal pushes on the buttons for the foot pedal. I didn't ever know that you could operate a sewing machine with your foot until I was like in college, maybe, 19 or 20 years old. I couldn't believe that, not everyone had this pedal, because this is what I grew up with. I want to show you one of the reasons I love Hope. A lot of times people say, do you sew on denim? Do you sew on denim? Because a lot of machines cannot sew on denim. But this machine does. In fact, I have an Aunt Joanne who showed me how to make denim blankets out of squares, and she included all of her seams. But when you go over a seam on a regular machine, not to diss on Pearl over there, but when you go over, you can hear how it's struggling. A regular machine may just quit and say, it's too thick. Let's try 3 layers. Let's try going over 3 layers like this. Hope can do this one, I can tell. I don't know why we'd ever need to do this, but sometimes when she won't go through and she gets kind of stuck, I can do the jackhammer, right? And I can just drive her down until she'll sew through. And she just does. She just does whatever I ask her to do. I can adjust her stitch length here. My mom always told me to keep her between that mark and the number 10. But I do kind of like to leave her on a little bit of a bigger stitch. This is basting down here. I do like to keep her on a little bit of a bigger stitch because I'm very impatient and I like to sew as fast as I possibly can. This is my zigzag. This is the zigzag stitch. I mean, I have other fancy stitches like this, and you can put whatever you want in there to make a fancy stitch, but honestly, this is the only one I ever use. She goes right in there, and this is the zigzag. This is if I want to make buttonholes the old way, but honestly, I don't use this machine to make buttonholes, I use Pearl. My mom said, you must service her once a year. And there's the booklet. And she says you can read, you can figure it out. One of my favorite things about growing up is that my parents just said, figure it out. You can figure this out. And that's one thing I've done is figure out how to maintenance her. But you just put a little lubricant on there like that, rotate it a little. She's gonna be purr like a kitten. But I love these old machines. Just want to show you that it's so easy to love your machine. Now when this is on here, there are places that want you to put oil, like these 3 spots want you to put oil in there. But with this off, I can just put oil right on there. And it's honestly and then you rotate it a little so that the oil works in there. Oh, Hope is gonna be so happy. So a lot of times people say, I want to learn how to sew. And you know what I tell them? Go to Goodwill and see if you can find an older machine and learn about your machine and see if you can get it working again. It's a good problem-solving technique that you're going to have to use when you're sewing. Now, Singer made the best machines. At one point, they sold the name and the manufacturing of their company, and they didn't do as good of a job. So there's a certain point where they did great, and there's a certain point where they did not so great. Now, top-of-the-line machines are not Singer, but they used to be, and I love her. So if you're looking for a machine that could be with you for your life, maybe a Singer 403A will do. My grandma was an expert. She made my mother's wedding dress and clothes for her and I. She taught my mom how to sew, and my mom taught me. and I'm teaching my daughter how to sew. It's more than a skill, it's love. Welcome to Stephanie's Sewing Studio. Let me teach you how to do what I love.